Welcome to the third video in my Ubuntu Server tutorial series. This video is the DHCP server. So before we start anything, we're going to go through some prerequisites. So the first thing is, you must have completed the first two videos. This is the same server, same hardware, same everything. The next prerequisite is that there are no other DHCP servers on your network. This includes modems, routers, or any other Ubuntu server that you may have set up already. If there is, they may conflict with one another. They don't know that the other exists. So they're going to try to hand out addresses. Whichever one gets the request first will hand out the address, which is not a good thing. That can cause multiple clients or devices to have the same IP address, which will cause IP conflicts, which will be a terrible thing on your network. So if this is going to be a permanent installation in your network, you can turn off your other DHCP services completely. If you don't need DHCP server and you just want to learn how it works, you can watch the video without actually practically doing it. Or you can also just skip the video and skip right to the third part. So what is DHCP? Well, DHCP basically assigns IP addresses on your network. When you turn a computer on, the computer requests the DHCP address. The server grabs that request, returns that request with all the information needed. The client then says, hey, I'm going to use this, and sends another packet back to the server. The server then sends another packet back with an expiration. And that's basically how it works in a nutshell. And the information that it gets is NTP servers. It gets information about DNS servers and Win servers. That's the information that the DHCP server sends, along with an IP address. It sends information about the network. So let's get started here. So the very first thing that we're going to do, we're going to install the DHCP server. So sudo apt-get install isc-dhcp-server and your password, and it's going to say here suggested packages, LDAP, isc-dhcp-server, LDAP, policy core utilities, which it's not going to install those. It's only going to install the new packages here that we need for just the DHCP server. So we'll go ahead and install these. It should only take a minute. And basically the next step after this is installed is to move the configuration file. We're going to create a backup of the configuration file. So if we are going to create our own, we're going to want to back up for future reference, just in case we screw something up or want to go back to normal or even turn the service off. So the first thing we're going to do is copy the original. So sudo mv, actually we're going to move the original to a backup, and then we're going to create our own from blank. Basically I'm just going to copy and paste the one that I've created for the tutorial, and then we're going to walk through it and I'll show you exactly what each thing is. /etc dhcpd.conf, and we're going to move that to the same folder, except we're going to name it back, B-A-K, or you can name it backup, or you can name it or ridge, or whatever you want to name it. So we're going to move that there, and then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new document with nano in the same folder, dhcpd.config. And here what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy and paste mine, which I will leave in the comments of the video so you can see exactly what's going on. Okay, this is probably going to fly by the screen real quick here. Alright, we're going to start here at the top, right here. So at the top it says isc-dhcp-server configuration, and here I put our global directives under this global directives up. So my copy and paste worked a little funny, so we're gonna put these back where they go before we keep going through here. Okay, so global directives. This is our authoritative server. Dynamic DNS, which we're not using, is off. We'll talk about more about that when we do the DNS server and the advanced setup for the DHCP server and DNS server. Dynamic DNS update style, none. We're not using it. These two go together. Allow unknown clients. Obviously, if you don't allow unknown clients, nobody will be able to access it. Now you can change that to give MAC addresses, so that, not to give MAC addresses, but to use a list of MAC addresses so that it will only allow certain MAC addresses to get a DHCP IP. Log facility local 7, that's putting the log inside of the local log, the server log, syslog. Default least size time 600. This is in seconds, and max least size time is 7200 seconds. And again, the log part, which we kind of did first. All right, so the DHCP scope. So basically, what the scope is the scope is what it's basically our directive to the server. It says, hey, this is what our network is. This is what you need to hand out. This is the scope. So the subnet 192.168.1.0. I know this is kind of a little confusing because it says this is the subnet, but this is the network. And then the net mask, which is normally what you would see as the subnet, is 255.255.255.0. So this is basically just the network address, the net mask address, and then in here we have the pool. The pool is our pool of IP addresses. Our failover peer, sorry, that's actually not supposed to be there. Our range, 192.168.1.100, 192.168.1.150. So I have 50 here. And those 50 IP addresses are allowed to be handed out to clients. And there's our subnet mask. And our router, which is our gateway / router, is 192.168.1.1, which is actually, that's my router. And then we have option domain name servers. So for now, since we don't have DNS set up on this network, we just have the server with the static IP address, and that's pretty much all that's on this network. We don't have a DNS server set up on this network. We have the router set is not to use DHCP, or not to hand out DHCP addresses, which is normally what it does. So what we're going to do here is we're going to tell it, we told it no. So it's not going to hand out DNS either. So when we turn off the DHCP portion of our router or of our modem, it will no longer handle DNS either. So we're going to tell it our domain name servers are 8.8.4.4, which these are just Google's DNS servers. They're public. You can use any here that you'd like. And the option domain name, which is the domain name that we've set up originally on our server, we put example.com or whatever. Whatever your domain name that you chose from that video is, goes there. And then our broadcast address, 192.168.1.255. 255 is the broadcast address on every network. That's why every network starts at 192.168.1.1 and ends at 192.168.1.254. Because the broadcast address is 255 and the network base address ends in 0, 0, 0. So you can't have a IP at 0 because it's 0. So we're going to go down here, and then the next thing we're going to set up is static hosts. These static hosts are set in a group directive, as you can see. So we're going to create a group, and inside that we're going to create a host, and that host is venus.example.com, which is our server right here. And our hardware Ethernet, I have that marked down here somewhere. Where did I put that? Let's see if I can find it. So you can find this Ethernet address, this hardware Ethernet, which is your MAC address. It's basically a fancy way of saying MAC address. You can find that by using ifconfig, which I haven't done yet. We'll put that in there in a second. And then our fixed address, 192.168.1.2, and then our dynamic DNS hostname, which we don't need. We can actually strip that out of there. Okay, so there you are. That's all there is to configuring DHCP. So we save this, and then we check ifconfig, and then we grab our hardware address right here. So this hardware address is created by VirtualBox, basically. That's how that works. So we're going to go back in and we're going to add this to the static lease. So that now, basically, this DHCP server is set up and ready to go. That's all there is to it. So we're going to watch it in action here. So we're going to restart it so it can reflect the changes. Oh, what is it? dhcpd. Oh, that's right. isc-dhcp. It's just like the package name. So now we're going to tail the log so we can see the system log. So here we're looking at the system log for dhcpd. So we have wrote 0 deleted host decals to leases file. Declaration, that's what that's short for. Wrote 0 leases to lease file. You can see it's listening here. Listening on the Ethernet, basically the hardwired address on. You'll see our MAC address there again, and it'll show you that it's listening on this sitter address, which is 192.168.1.0. So it's listening for that entire network, anybody on that network. So starting the server here. It's a fallback, which we don't have any of that stuff set up. So right now it's just starting the server. So let me fire up this laptop here, and you can watch it in real time. Come up and hand out an IP address. And you're seeing UFW block some stuff here. Alright, so what did UFW block? Let's see. We'll take a look. It actually blocked itself. Oh no, it actually blocked the router that it's hooked into. Okay, so here we go. And if you give this a little check here, you'll see that there's a request. And it requested that IP addresses from that hardware ID on that ENCP0S3, which is our hardware, and there's the lease. It's an unknown lease, which is now put in. There it goes. So DHCP Discover, it got the Discover, it got the offer, it got the request, and then it sent the ACK packet. So it didn't know 192.168.1.10. It said, who is that? I have no idea who that is. So it said, hey, we're gonna pretend like we don't know who that is. So we're gonna send it. Basically, a Discover packet was sent from the client to the server, which is this one, sent on the broadcast address. The server then turned around and sent a DHCP offer. And it said the offer is for the IP address of 192.168.1.100. It sent it to this MAC address. This is the host name that it found. And it sent information as DNS. It sent the information as with the DNS, the NTP server, and all that fun stuff. So then it said, it came back. So it sent the offer, and then it sent back for the request. It said, hey, yeah, I'm going to use this. The client sent this back right here. It said, hey, yeah, I'm going to use this. I'm going to use this address, and I'm going to send it back to you, which is, there's our IP address for the server. That's where it came from, again. And then the server says, hey, you're going to use it? Okay, well, here's a lease. So it gave the lease out to the server, or out to the client. So now the client's IP address is 192.168.1.100, and we can actually see that if we do SSH. So I think I have this set up to SSH into it. Yep, there it is. So what's the password for admin local? That's a hard one. There we go. So now we can actually see. Nope, that's not it. So, I mean, as you can see, yeah, now that IP address is working, and you can get to that server from there. That's how DHCP works, and that's how to set up a simple DHCP server. Yes, there are more things that we can do. We can create a fallback server. We can create a fallback server so that when the first one goes down, the second one is up and running, and they don't miss a beat. They sync leases between the two, and they're good to go. And you don't really need that if you're just a home network, but in larger network situations, there are multiple DHCP servers, and there are large loads, and there are different networks and subnets. So, this is just a very basic step into DHCP. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Our next video is going to be the DNS video. If you like the video, please like and subscribe. Thanks.